Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and in this episode we're going to be checking out the MSFS2020 Map Enhancement mod that essentially allows you to choose between the default map as well as using it as the third-party application running the Bing maps, as well as allowing you to use Google Maps. And we're going to check out all three. We're going to look at the FPS. I'm going to show you guys the graphics settings. We're also going to be looking for stutters and anything like that. You guys are going to see everything in raw data as I see it. We are using the SimWorks Studio PC-12. A lot of awesome fixes are coming this way to this aircraft, guys, and you're going to see some of that today. The takeoff issue has been resolved in the next build. The reason why I'm picking this aircraft is because I have found it in the past to at times be a little bit demanding on FPS. Same thing with the TBM 850 and the TBM 930 and the PH 100, which we'll be showcasing on the channel here very soon. So it's very comparable. It's a very common aircraft. It's a very popular relationship to the other popular aircraft. So I wanted to use that today. And we're going to be flying over Los Angeles, California, as it is a very busy, very high-intensity map area, if you will. So stick around. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkills tutorial guides from Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, please consider joining us on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future releases that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below. All right, so I'm coming here to enable the developer modes. That way we can get the FPS counter up on the screen, but I want to show you guys while I'm here. We are running 4K TAA as the anti-aliasing, no DLSS today. We're using Ultra as our preset, so all the graphic settings are set to the Ultra setting. Now let's go ahead and turn on our developer mode. And by the way, we are running the 3900 XT Ryzen 9 and the RTX 4080 as our GPU, so we're not running a 4090. Let's go display or debug, I think it is. Yep, display FPS. All right, so you guys can see right now we're rocking about 23 frames per second. Not expecting a whole lot better than that, honestly, given what we're pushing here. You can see the main thread is what we are limited by at 35 milliseconds. That's pretty freaking slow. Let's see here. By the way, I do have a 5800X3D coming in the mail today, so you guys will see some comparison there too. That will probably use the same testing, honestly, because why not? All right, so let's get airborne. We are taking off towards the city, so we will immediately be presented with some intense scenery. I don't mind the FPS at the moment, guys. I really don't care that it is being pushed like that. For those of you who saw the SimWorks Studio PC-12 takeoff before, you guys remember it was wobbly all over the place. It had a hard time transitioning between ground mode and takeoff mode. As you guys can see, that has certainly been addressed. Oh, I thought we were taking off towards the city. Apparently I lied. All right, so let's turn it towards the city, shall we? Let's get our yaw damper turned on here. There we go. Flaps coming up. Torque warning. Actually, I'm not sure what our warning. There it goes. I think it was just the flaps in transition. Alright, so as we get into the city, I'm going to keep it relatively low altitude today. Now, the other cool thing about this first run, at least, is this is my first time in LA since clearing my shader cache. So this is pretty raw. Now, rolling cache, I believe, is disabled now. Let me show you guys that, because that does play a part in this. That will certainly have a part of this. But I believe it is off. Yes, it is.
Sync rate. Sync rate.
All right. Let's see where we're at now. I'm actually thoroughly impressed with how smooth this is going. This test may not work the way that I anticipated. There we go. There's some stuttering. Looking out the side window tends to work a little bit better with that. Okay, so that is with default. Let's more or less level out while looking out the side window. Always a safe way to fly, looking out the side instead of the front, especially at low altitude over the city. Perfectly safe way to fly. Highly recommended, right? All right. So now I'm going to exit the sim. I'm going to install the application, and we're going to see what the difference is. We're going to start out with the default Bing maps, but letting the map enhancement tool control the entry. All right, so we are back. So the enhancement mod is running, and we are using the Bing maps the first time. So Bing is the same thing that Microsoft Flight Simulator uses by default. So let's go ahead. We're going to release the parking brake and get ourselves back up in the air. So here we go. Oh. Coming up. We're just going to start making our turns already. All right, let's see what we're getting here. It looks like there might still be a little bit of stuttering, but I do think it is better than what it was before. Obviously no increase to FPS, and be quite honest, I was not expecting one. I am pushing this thing pretty hard. Ultra settings at 4K on a 4080, that's still taxing. And plus, if you guys look up at the FPS counter, I am limited by the main thread. That means it's the CPU causing my limitation, not the GPU. But I would definitely say there's an improvement here. I can still see micro stutters here and there. I'm looking at the recording for you guys, and it looks like you guys can probably see a little bit. I think you're seeing it slightly less than I am. But what I'm noticing is they are not near as pronounced with the add-on. Let's level the wings out so we get more of the terrain in a single view. I will say that's actually a lot smoother. There is no argument there. I'm not denying that at all. That is definitely smoother. Yeah, definitely. So it definitely increases the smoothness. I mean, this doesn't feel like 30 frames per second to me. Not at all. This feels, I mean, this is more than reasonable. See, like there I saw some stuttering on the rolls. Some of that could genuinely be FPS. Not bad at all. So now let's go ahead and shut it down again, and we're going to switch over to Google Maps and see what we get that's different, if anything. All right, so now we are back and we are using the Google Maps, and I'm going to tell you something. Now, I'm not trying to get excited here, but I am noticing a difference in the main thread. Before, if you guys saw in the previous videos, it was almost full red. And I think I am picking up about 3 frames per second, but again, we're still on the ground, so that's way too early to tell that or get excited by it, but definitely a difference in behavior between when we were using the Bing maps, either in MSFS or using the Map Enhancement mod. Now we switched over to Google, and there's a difference. There's definitely, like, it was way more of this red, but let's see what happens when we're actually airborne. All right, so we're going to release that. You can see the coloring is definitely different. Yeah, frame rate's already settled back into about what it was, which again, we were expecting, right? Said that in the previous segment. Ultra settings, 4080, 3900 XT. Wasn't expecting to get much better than that over LA. But who knows? Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised. It still looks like I picked up 2 or 3, but nothing to write home about. Oh, that could be a fluctuation in different services that maybe aren't running anymore. Now, is this my first time using Google Maps? This is my first time with it having to load Google Maps. So I am expecting a little bit of initial stuttering as it loads the area. I would just assume that the application has to work like anything else, and we're going to get that similar behavior. So we'll see. All right, so let's level her out, more or less, and let's go back to our window flying, side window flying. All right, so let's see what we're getting. Do the turn that we did before. I will say the Google Maps doesn't look bad at all. There's a little bit of stuttering there. I don't think that's FPS loss yet. It's too small. But we are seeing more of the main thread. Look at what I was talking about earlier. It does seem to be less intensive on the CPU. There definitely seems to be more overhead than there was with Bing. I think we're running a little bit higher, like I said, maybe 2 or 3, nothing crazy, but definitely the main thread seems to be chilling out a little bit. Let's go to the right wing. I would say this is still impressive because here's the thing about this. This is definitely playable. Now, we have yet to see any experience that I would deem as unplayable. I will specify that. Even Microsoft Flight Simulator without the map enhancement mod in the very first segment we did, at no point would I have deemed it unplayable. Okay. I am going to state that I do believe with specifically Google Maps, there seems to be a bit lighter resource usage on the CPU. Again, nothing to write home about, nothing we can boast about, nothing that you could, go home and write a story about. But there does seem to be a bit less CPU usage when using the Google Maps version. As far as stability goes, honestly, I feel like they are all the same. I don't feel like that there is any significant difference other than coloring and maybe some textures and depth. The coloring here with Google Maps definitely seems to be different. I am definitely seeing a difference in color. I don't know. It's too soon for me to decide if it's good or bad, which one I like more or less. Like even here, you can see the FPS is starting to increase. Now, we're also starting to gain altitude, so that's going to change the LOD a bit. So let's maybe trim the nose down a little bit so she stops climbing. The other thing is, as the cache starts to develop, I'm curious how much of a difference that is making too. But I'm looking at you guys' screen, what you guys are seeing on the recording, and it looks smooth as glass. That looks smooth as butter. I will say this is the first segment in the recording that I have not been able to see it when I'm watching OBS and seeing what you guys are now watching on YouTube.
Sync rate. Sync rate.
Yes, I know we're syncing. I'm doing it on purpose.
Sync rate.
Again, the main thread seems to be lightening up a little bit, maybe getting a bit of overhead. Completely ultra settings, you guys. I bet if we were to trim this out a little bit, we would get even better performance. But there you have it, folks. So you guys let me know what you guys think. A link to this product will be down in the description below, just like anything else. All of the free maps are still free. There is an option in which you can buy a license which will give you access to the Google Pro servers. I don't think that's necessary for what we do. I have not looked into that. I have not purchased it. I'm using only the freeware version of the product right now, so just keep that in mind. I don't really have any intention, I think, of buying the payware. Like, it just doesn't seem to be a necessity, and I have, again, no idea what the licenses cost to use the App Pro service from Google. But even flying directly over the airport now, as you guys can see, all traffic is disabled, so that may take effect there too. So let me know what you guys think, especially if you try it out. If there are tips and tricks to using the software that maybe I'm not aware of, please by all means let me know. If there's a step that I missed, please by all means let me know. I did read all the instructions that were on the download page, and it basically says download it, execute it, run it as administrator, hit the start button after you select which map you want to use, and then launch the sim. So as long as I didn't miss anything there, the test should be valid. But let me know if you guys saw anything different, or if there's any other tips and tricks that you guys can find maybe to increase FPS as well as enhance the scenery and the way it loads. I will say that, again, now that we have flown around for a minute, we're back to our starting point. The stutters do seem to be ultimately gone using the Google Maps. So again, another major improvement. Let me know what you guys think. As always, folks, stay safe and healthy. I'll see you in the next one.